Good morning, everyone. My name is Jorge Perez. I'm the Executive Director of HACIA, the Hispanic American Construction Industry Association. And I want to welcome you and everyone to the first ever live webinar that we're having out of HACIA offices in downtown Chicago. We're very excited to actually be launching this. Obviously, the circumstances around doing this is something that we didn't think would get to this point, but unfortunately, this is the reality that we're living in today. Obviously, the health and well-being of all of you and all of our staff and all of your employees and all of our residents and citizens is what is of utmost importance to everyone right now, to stay safe, to stay healthy, and to definitely be aware of everything that is going on. When this all started to escalate about a month ago, we had a considerable amount of questions. Obviously, while the situation still is very fluid, we were very much concerned about what would happen in terms of construction and design in Illinois, as well as throughout the country. But we had a very great response from our governor and our mayor to look at and ensuring that construction was essential. So amidst of all that, there was a lot of still questions that had been coming to our offices. Everything from what do I do to who do I talk to whether or not our work at the airport is going to be moving forward. So those questions of continuity are what we're trying to answer today. And we're very, very lucky to have a wonderful team from CDA helping us answer these questions and provide a lot of more clarity to the speculation that's really been sort of taken over the past few weeks. But before I do that, I want to take an opportunity to thank our board of directors and our members and our sponsors for today's event. On behalf of our board of directors and our board, Ivan Solis from Solis Construction, we want to thank you and welcome you again for joining us at our this first live ever webinar. I do want to let you all know that we are also live streaming off of our YouTube channel. It's YouTube /HACIA.org. That's a capital H and a capital O. It's a great opportunity for you to share this with your friends worldwide. We're pretty excited about this. Also, it gives you an opportunity to check out our HACIA videos that we've created over the past 7 years. We have a wonderful inventory of member synopsis, member profiles, members who received awards, corporations that received awards over the past few years at our annual banquet, and obviously our HACIA Scholarship Fund. So you get a good glimpse of HACIA and what we're doing on our YouTube channel. And so this webinar is being broadcast live there as well. Our regular membership meetings have been shifted a little bit while we go through this pandemic and make our way through it. And please understand, I truly believe that we will get through it very well, very strong. We got to make sure that we do it right. And we want to let you know that we are here to help anyone and everyone as we and you requested. I do want to thank our sponsors. We're doing this jointly today with our strategic partner, the Federation of Women Contractors, and Beth Doria and her team over there. I want to give a special shout out to Beth and the Federation of Women Contractors. I also want to thank our partners at Wintrust Bank, the good folks over at People's Gas, Natural Gas Delivery, ComEd, and Bear Pro Paints. And I also want to thank all of you who are members. Thank you for your support. This has been very crucial for us. We've reached quite a milestone. This first quarter of 2020, we've had the highest dues renewal ever for our organization. And as in any business going through trying times right now, this has proved to be very, very crucial for HACIA, for our staff, and this really helped keep the doors open for us. And we want to thank you for your continued membership. If you're not a member and you want to consider being part of HACIA, we really would welcome you. And you can go to our website, haciaworks.org, for an application, and you'll be more than welcome to join. Again, I want to thank you all. We have Tammy Morgan, who is, I think, Deputy Commissioner of Compliance over at the Chicago Department of Aviation, who's going to help kick us off. We also have part of her team. We have John Johnson, who's a managing deputy, and he's also the chief financial officer of the CDA. And we also have Rob Hoxie, who's going to give a little overview on operational impacts. And then we have Frank Grimaldi and Alex Leon, who will talk a little bit about the program update. So we'll start it off. And what I'll do here Tammy, I'll be commandeering the slides, but I will hand it off to you. And if you or Commissioner are ready to speak now, please let me know. Your mic is live. Oh, before that, actually, me quick little plug. One thing that I forgot to mention is we actually are still continuing with the HACIA U offerings that we've been providing over the last several years. One thing that we have been pretty excited about doing is while the pandemic broke and escalated, we quickly moved our in-classroom instructions to an online platform. And we've been doing this with our partners over at the College of DuPage. So that quickly went online, as well as our partners over at St. Augustine College that are administering our intro to construction management, or what is widely known as the FIJA program with photovoltaic instruction. That went online as well. And we were very excited that we were able to announce today that later this afternoon, we have an informational webinar for a platform that we were already working on launching, and that was our online business essentials for construction. And if you have time this afternoon, or if you want more information, there'll be a little formal explanation on the business essentials for construction. This is a program that's paced for folks to take 2-week intervals at a time to understand operations management, marketing and communications, finance and budgeting, and obviously entrepreneurship. This is very crucial, we believe, now more than ever, as well as all of our offerings. In fact, tomorrow we're actually doing another QuickBooks training online. We're very excited about this platform. We were hoping to launch this earlier this year, but with the situation as it is, we were able to preempt it by putting all of our regular offerings online. And so this is just an added offering, a little different focus because you do need to actually complete each of the courses into 2 weeks, and they'll be launching later in May. But our other classes, our intro and advanced construction management, are still ongoing. Circe Ruiz from our team has been a wonderful champion of that program. And if you want some more information on that, please contact her or our office. You know, as we go forward and as we understand and try to implement the federal, state, county, and statewide programs for financing to get folks through these trying times, one thing that we've been telling our members, and we want to tell everyone on this webinar, is that it's a myriad of programs that are out there, and a lot of them are funding the banks. And the bank's products are what you are trying to access. So what we're telling folks is make sure, if you haven't already, talk to your banker, talk to your CPA. If you don't have a CPA, please reach out to us. We have some CPAs as members, but we also want to make sure that you're talking to your attorney or an HR professional, just to ensure that you're operating your business in the legal parameters that you operate in. And it is crucial because those 3 components in terms of advising you on your business is of the utmost right now. Obviously, the banking products that are out there for financing to get you the emergency funding is important. Wintrust is a wonderful partner of ours. We can clearly refer you to them, but we also have other partner banks as well, Fifth Third. And if you want some more information on that, please let us know. If you want some more additional information on how to access our QuickBooks training, which is online, please feel free to reach out to us as well. So sorry about that quick little interruption, Tammy, but let me hand it over to you. And are you speaking first, or who on your team? You are unmuted, Tammy. You are on. Alex, you're also unmuted.
Hey, Tammy, your microphone isn't working.
Good morning, Alex.
Morning, how are you guys?
Good.
We're having some technical difficulties. We'll wait for them to get set up. They're at O'Hare, I'm at Midway.
Okay. So what we're going to do, everyone, is we actually have some slides that the CDA team is going to go through with some comments. And then what we'll do is we'll go through some of the questions that were sent over in advance. And we also have some additional questions and answers via this platform. Everyone has an opportunity to upvote a question, as you see there in your panel. So we will stand by for Tammy.
Give us a minute, we're still working through it.
You just joined us, everyone. We're just waiting for a clearing up of a technical issue here regarding the CDA's phone line. So please stand by.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear us, Jorge?
I can hear you, Tammy. Thank you very much. Welcome.
We gotcha. Good morning, Jorge.
How are you?
Sorry about our technical difficulties.
As long as the planes are landing properly and everyone's safe there at CDA, we can get through this.
What planes? So the first person I'm going to introduce is Rob HACIA, who is our COO, and he will be talking a little bit about everything that's going on here at aviation, all of the exciting things during this COVID pandemic.
Well, good morning, everybody, and apologies on our end for the technical difficulties there getting started. I think first off, we want to start off by thanking Jorge and the entire group on the phone now for their partnership. We know that all of you have various roles to play in the operation of our airport, whether that's in concessions, in various contracting forms, as agents of our capital programs, even people bringing goods to and from the airports, right? We greatly appreciate all that you do each and every day for the city and for the state of our airport. COVID-19 certainly has brought interesting times to our business. Thinking back to February, it started with the need to implement screening procedures on international travelers, quickly escalating to how we maintain custodial practices and safe operating environments for the thousands of employees and travelers that use our facilities. By mid-March, it was widespread cancellation of flights and helping the airlines and all of the various business partners that we have in our facilities manage the instability that caused. We understand that the airport is essential, as we know you do as well, not just from getting goods and people to and from Chicago, but it's an essential economic engine for the entire city. And the full quantification of what this outbreak will mean for the airports and the broader community is still unknown. I think we all face that in our day-to-day lives, and that's certainly true here at the airport. I think one thing that's been important to Commissioner Rhee, to Andrew Velasquez, and others on the management team here has been to ensure that we're in constant communication with all of the entities that sustain the operation each and every day here at our airports. That's our airline partners, it's the management teams in our terminal facilities and in our cargo buildings, it's our federal agencies, FAA, TSA, Department of Homeland Security, and others. And we've been trying to, not only provide them with information and exchange of views related to sustaining ongoing operations, but also how to manage the various complications that fall out of this, helping to save costs in the day-to-day environment. What costs really are driven by passengers and what's possibly deferrable in the immediate term when we don't have the throughputs that we once did. But we also want our airports to be predictable. We know traffic will come back, both in the near term and in the longer term. And we need to make sure that we're adequately prepared to respond to that. When it comes to ongoing operations, there's been a lot of effort put into making sure that the airport operation remains stable. Everything from with our airlines, making sure the health and safety of their employees is a priority, making sure that we can accommodate their demands for aircraft parking. On any given day now, we have about 150 aircraft parked at O'Hare, another several dozen parked at Midway. These are planes that, aren't flying every day, every hour of every day like they used to. We've converted de-icing facilities, taxiways, and even one of our runways at O'Hare for aircraft parking. One of the unexpected upsides has been, surge in air cargo volumes. Our cargo facilities are as busy as ever. We're using some of our facilities typically reserved for passengers to handle all cargo flights as well, as airlines put their aircraft and their employees to good work. United, many of our foreign flag carriers have multiple daily flights now just carrying freight to and from other points around the world. When it comes to our federal agencies, right, we've worked closely with them on, immediate term responsibilities like airport traffic control, plus longer term initiatives like how many of their field inspectors should be working on a daily basis to support our construction programs. So the partnership that we enjoy with our federal agencies is of critical import during these times. And then, of course, with all of our business partners, concessionaires, contractors who provide busing, others on the front line, all of those are equally important to the day-to-day operation of the airport. When it comes to our construction programs, I'm going to have Alex Leone and Frank Grimaldi talk a bit more in depth this morning about those, but certainly sustaining ongoing construction activities while maintaining safe working environments has been a critical priority to the department. We've worked closely with the Chicago Building Trades, the Association of General Contractors, to make sure we're in a constant dialogue with what's going on in the industry, making sure that contractors are able to execute social distancing in the field, supplementing that with toolbox talks at the start of every shift, and making sure that the jobs that we do have ongoing aren't going to be unproductive, you know, in a world where people are not able to go about their day-to-day routines. It will come as no surprise, right? We've had a number of challenges on construction, many of which have to do with the supply chain of specialist equipment and parts. We have parts for our Terminal 5 expansion that are coming out of Mexico and Spain and other parts in Europe. Other construction projects similarly have disruption to trucking movement, to factory operations, et cetera. So maintaining that continuous dialogue has been really important there. When it comes to O'Hare 21, you know, the City of Chicago, the CDA, have always talked aggressively about the economic impact that the capital programs at both our airports play for the city, the region, and, you know, the entirety of the 77 community areas here in Chicago. We know that these airports generate tens of billions of dollars and support more than 400,000 jobs regionally. And therefore, making sure that we're able to sustain investment, sustain operations, remains the most important priority of this department. We're fully committed, regardless of what the health and economic crisis has done to the region and the broader aviation industry, to continue to make sure that the mayor's goals for inclusion across all of CDA's initiatives remain our priority. And we'll talk more about that as we go through the dialogue this morning. For some general context, you know, this is not the first time that the aviation industry has been affected by some unplanned disruption. And these go back decades, everything from the 1970s oil embargo to the airport traffic controllers strike by PATCO in the 1980s, the 9/11 terrorist events, and, you know, just as problematic, the recession activities between 2008 and 2010. Each and every one of those has had an effect on the demand for air travel, the financial health of the aviation industry. And what's been common to all of those is, despite the shocks, whether they were immediate or prolonged, air traffic has always recovered and continued to grow, not just in the United States, not just in Chicago, but around the world. You know, the O'Hare Airport lost nearly 10 million passengers between 2007 and 2010, and yet by 2015 was setting records once again, even with tens of thousands of fewer flights per year. So the demand for air travel is long-term. The germination time for new facilities at our airports takes several years, if not the better part of decades. The first runway, the O'Hare Modernization Program, to open in 2008, and we're still working on now the fourth new runway, which will complete construction this year. So one can't take an immediate term view to our capital programs, and while there certainly are adjustments that we'll be needing to make to day-to-day operations, to passenger processing, to make sure that our employees and passengers will be safe when travel resumes in full in the coming weeks and months. Investment in airport facilities remains an important priority, not just for the city, but also one of our most important responsibilities to the national airspace system. So we are confident that air travel will rebound, but just like the rest of you, the full effect of what COVID-19 means on everybody's day-to-day routine still remains unknown. We are looking forward to the day where business gets back to normal. So that's a little bit of the flavor for where our mind has been at. I'm going to ask Frank and Alex to talk through the capital projects. And first, I'm going to turn it over to Frank just to talk about the immediate term effects that COVID's had on day-to-day construction activities.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Quickly, just talk about impacts on the ongoing capital project. In spite of the pandemic, COVID-19, CDA has every intention of continuing to plan, design, and procure construction projects for the OMP, CIP, and TAP. It's very important that we're vigilant about the well-being of our airports while we find ourselves in unprecedented times. It's our experience that we need to remain focused on the big picture and the long-term business and financial vision. At O'Hare, remember, we're still the busiest airport in the world, and we have an opportunity to evaluate the near-term capital projects, including the schedules, construction schedules, efficiencies, timing, and potential to rephase programs and costs. And that's what we're looking at now. We're taking advantage of this temporary slowdown in airport activity to evaluate immediate near-term capital projects, to identify implementation opportunities presented by lower demand levels as well as ways to reduce costs, while lessening disruptions to the airport users and including tenants, passengers, and our airline partners. Because of the lull in the traffic, and most of you have known the traffic, it's very busy here. Sometimes we can't even get out at night to do some work. But because of the lower traffic, it's resulted in the ability to accelerate some work, such as what we're doing now is we're around the gates, getting areas that we can't get anytime. Of course, airplanes are not in the gates, so we're doing construction, taking pavement that's been there for 60 years, especially at the gates and the taxi lanes. So we're taking advantage of that. We did that during 9/11, and from our experiences then, we're doing that now. This month, we also undertook 6 large projects to replace some airfield pavement, not only in the gates, but also on some of the runways and taxiways that we have access to now. And that's very important for us to start doing that in this time. We are continuing to collaborate with our airline partners to properly align ourselves on capital project requirements, budgets, and scopes of work. These conversations are continuous and will be critical, as we align investment priorities at the airports with needs once the impact of COVID-19 is better understood. In doing all this, of course, we have to work with our federal partners to ensure airports receive the benefit of the CARES Act funding set aside to support airport capital projects, and has identified several projects to compete for these funds. And of course, this is for now and in the future. In the meantime, work continues and will continue. I've been talking to the unions on a weekly basis, and they're at 97 to 98% enrollment, and they have their people ready to go, and they've been working. The ongoing construction projects include site work, utility construction, and a wide range of building trades. Additionally, before the end of the second quarter of this year, we intend to advertise the new target market opportunities for construction management service, quality assurance, material testing, and architectural and engineering design services. And we're going to try to get those out as quickly as we can in the second quarter. Quick update on Terminal 5. We are fully committed to a continuation of work on Terminal 5 as planned. This is an important investment in the immediate term, regardless of the impact of COVID-19 may have on air travel in the future. The progress continues without the interruption of T5 design, which hopefully will be complete in the next couple of months. And the big cap packages continue to be released. Site work construction continues to advance, as well as preliminary work on passenger boarding bridges. And that's important that continues, because those boarding bridges are going to be, some are temporary, and then once the new ones open, we'll take those temporary ones and move them around. Design work is also underway in Terminal 5 parking garage. They're about 10% on the utilities package on that, and then we'll be moving forward on the completion of that. Important bid opportunities for this project are moving forward in the next few weeks and months. In May, $20 million in trade packages will be opened for the T5 building envelope system, including 4 SBI Small Business Initiative packages. During the second quarter of 2020, $147 million in MEP packages will be opened. Also, $80 million in interior renovation packages are scheduled to be released in May. We will continue to rephase this project as traffic volumes evolve and taking advantage of the opportunities to move construction as quickly as we can and efficiently as we can. Thank you. So I'm now going to turn you over to Alex, who could give you an update on Midway or 21. Al?
Good morning, HACIA. Shifting focus for a moment over to Midway. At Midway, the Midway construction for the 2 major components of the Midway Modernization Program and 2 additional CIP projects are currently ongoing, and we are fully committed to bringing them to completion this year. We also have 3 to 4 projects that have carrier approval that we intend to defer slightly for the next 6 to 12 months. And you know, again, those projects will depend on regulatory requirements, but we definitely intend to move forward with the implementation as soon as practical. And we're also currently working with our Midway carriers to stagger the timeline for the new MII projects request. Midway is on a slightly different business structure than O'Hare. While O'Hare got the full upfront $8.5 billion capital plan, we work every year, 6 months, every 12 months with our carriers to identify new opportunities to upkeep and maintain the facilities here at Midway. And those projects are obviously tied to regulatory requirements and also the projects that are critical to operations. So those projects, we fully intend to prioritize those and move forward with those within the next 6 months to a year. Now, shifting gears back to O'Hare and to the O'Hare 21 program and the projects, we want to make it very clear that O'Hare 21 is moving forward. There may be projects that, again, may be reprioritized or rescheduled. There may be other projects that are delayed because of the impacts of COVID-19, but at this point, we remain fully committed to the completion of the various components of O'Hare 21. The O'Hare 21, as I mentioned, they have long-term funding mechanisms in place. We have carrier approval that allow them to survive the peaks and valleys of the industry through scenarios like COVID-19. And again, as Rob mentioned, history has shown that airports must continue to invest in facility upgrades, and the time that it takes to realize these multi-year improvements from start to finish always spans the peaks and valleys through the demand for air travel. The majority of the O'Hare 21 is composed of long-term projects like the TAP program, which represent the long-term future of the airport and will provide O'Hare with the type of flexible facilities it needs to manage the demands of modern air travel. And as it relates to the TAP programs or the gate expansion programs, CDA and the City of Chicago are planning to continue to move forward with the design of TAP. We have those major design components in place, those contracts. Many of the members of HACIA are part of those teams. We are committed to the long-term design, implementation, and construction plans of the major TAP elements, such as the O'Hare Global Terminal. That's the Terminal 2 redevelopment, and the satellite concourses that we'll be building to the west. The parking areas as well, and the tunnel, the civil design work that accompanies that as well. And over the next few months, we'll be working closely again with our airline partners, the federal partners, and the city of Chicago to evaluate the phasing of each of these major projects. I'm now going to hand it over to Tammy.
Hi, we are now going to hand it over to John Johnson, who is our CFO for finance.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jonathan Johnson. I'm the Managing Deputy Commissioner of Chicago Department of Aviation. Overall responsibilities consist of O&M, financial activities, accounts receivable, important to you guys, accounts payable, and auditing. I want to initially talk about some of the things we've done in response to COVID to ensure that we keep the payments processed for all of our third-party vendors. First thing to do was to establish safe protocols that we can continue our services during this process in terms of balancing our workforce, but also in terms of implementing some electronic procedures through our vendor portal, allowing our vendors to submit scanned payments. Many of you probably already know that obviously we're very paper-heavy documentation, but obviously since a lot of people are now working remotely, this gave them the opportunity to now scan their invoices. This also allowed our internal employees to view and scan and comment and edit and audit those same invoices. And then that flows all the way then through our auditors for review and then for final signatures. Thank you. We also, in terms of expediting the process, reduced the number of signatures on the back end of payment vouchers to get them in and out of CDA much more quickly. We also established a standard purchase order releases are now essentially eliminated and sent directly to the vendors. We also identified choke points that were existing within the department in terms of being held by employees when they're auditing them to ensure that they get passed from them to the next person and approved and processed. We're looking at a couple of things in the future prior to COVID, but we want to come back to. The first thing is it's called the supply chain finance process. And that basically allows the general contractor through an EFT transaction to process payment for subcontractors. There are some industries already using that. I believe, Louis Armstrong in New Orleans and LaGuardia in New York. We're going to spend a little more time with this and research it and look at ways to get payments faster to our vendors. Also looking at some of the processes used during our OMP process, again, trying to get payments more quickly into the hands of our subcontractors. Because at the end of the day, it's payroll, and we want to make sure people get their money efficiently and quickly, just as any employee here would want. And I think that's it.
Okay, Jorge, I'm going to turn it over to our Commissioner, Jamie Rhee.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time. We hope everyone is safe and healthy. As you can hear, there's a lot going on here. Obviously, we're doing all of this with a lot of our folks teleworking. We've been pretty innovative, as you can tell, in coming up with some roundabout solutions, and obviously working very closely with Department of Procurement Services during this time. I see some of the questions were centered around bidding and you know, were we still on track for certain items, or were we rethinking other bids? I can tell you that we're actually taking a laser-like focus on a lot of different things. I think there's going to be a lot of new laws that'll be passed down, you know, for example, in social distancing, and what maybe would be additions to our current contracts. We're looking at our cleaning contracts, both of which are on the street. We're trying to determine whether or not we need to add additional requirements for our custodial contractors. Our unarmed security, the same thing we're looking at. And we're doing this all at a time when we all know that City Hall is closed. So unfortunately, Shannon is not able to accept bids in paper, which all of us are very accustomed to. And so they themselves are having to go through a sort of transition into e-procurement and take all these documents and all these addendums that were out there and in process and convert them over to electronic bidding. It's going to be a learning curve for all of us having to just flip this switch so quickly, but we had a good head start on it. We started e-procurement when I was there, and so we've sort of, you know, rolled out in phases different elements of our procurements, whether it's construction, professional services, work services, and so that work's going to continue on. But we are taking a really close look, like you've heard. I mean, this is an interesting time for us right now where we are able to speed up on some work given the amount of, we don't have the operational impact as we normally would. So we really have accelerated some of that work. Other work we're going to look at phasing, and let's all remember that we're still in the midst of this. With the governor just extending the order, we are still in the midst of this crisis. And so, you know, to try to predict what's going to happen in the next month is difficult, let alone next week. So we are trying to, you know, be flexible, make sure that we continue moving forward, but also are taking the health and the safety and the welfare of our employees and all the passengers and the construction crews that continue to work here every day. We take it very seriously. And we've taken a lot of time and energy to make sure that we're educating with all of our folks and making sure that they have the right information as it relates to how to prevent the transmission of this disease and slow it down. But we are very grateful for the partnership, and we're going to continue to hopefully have this dialogue back and forth. You know, this is the first of many of these types of webinars that we plan to host, and Tammy's got a lot of really good ideas going forward on how we can convert some of the open houses and things that we were doing and some of the classes that we were teaching to convert those so that we're more electronic in the way that we provide our information to the public. And Tammy, I know you're going to talk a little bit about that. Do you want to go ahead and talk, and then we'll do the questions?
Sure.
Okay.
So we have a lot of exciting things going on here at Aviation. We are working with DPS on the COVID-19 support, which means we'll deploy our assist agencies to help our small businesses working here at the airport. They're going to provide assistance for application assistance. They're going to provide assistance as to how to retain your employees by using the Paycheck Protection Program. They're going to assist with different applications for different grants that the federal government is offering. So we are currently working with DPS on that, and it should be out the door any day now, hopefully, as we continue to work through this pandemic, because so many of our small businesses and concessionaires have been greatly impacted by this new COVID-19 epidemic. Now I'm going to introduce Amber so she can talk a little bit more about the concessionaires.
Hey, hi, I'm Amber Ritter. I am the Chief Commercial Officer for the airport system. We are, many of you may have heard that last Wednesday we introduced an ordinance to City Council that would authorize the CDA Commissioner to enact a concessions relief package that we're working through. The ordinance will be up for a vote in front of City Council on May 20th. So that'll be when we hope for that to pass. In the meantime, we're working on the details of the plan, taking into account a lot of the unique situations we're in at O'Hare, including our bond obligations and some of our contractual obligations and our restrictions. So we're working creatively to try to figure out a way to give the kind of relief that other airports have given to concessionaires in general in a way that that works through our contacts. So please stay tuned for that. We'll be getting more information out as soon as we're able to implement the plan. You know, again, based on City Council authorization in May, if it goes to vote in May, which is what it's planned for now. That is the real update that I have for concessions right now. And for those of you who are in the concessions community, we just want to thank you again for all of your work and efforts throughout this time. I know it's been really difficult for everybody, and everyone's been just a great partner for us in the concessions community. So thank you.
Jorge, will you be asking us the questions?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
speaking of a couple things, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask the questions that were sent in advance first, and then we'll go over to some of the questions that have been posted as we've been online. I'll start off with the question regarding cash, because if there's ever a time where cash is king, it's definitely now. And every business in America and the world is definitely looking at cash and how to hold on to it, how to get it quicker. So those are big questions. The first one is, in regards to the airline bailout, how will this be good for the CDA?
Well, I will tell you that, most folks know that we are an enterprise fund, and so we are a self-contained fund. Airport money can only be used for airport purposes. Otherwise, it's considered revenue diversion, which is why all money made at the airport stays at the airport. So we are dependent upon those revenues. And so anytime that we have our airport partners are able to thrive, the CDA thrives. And that's a very symbiotic relationship that we have with all of our airport stakeholders, whether it's the airlines, the concessionaires, our federal partners, cargo operators. We're all sort of in this, together. And so as one creates a healthy environment, it benefits all of the others. So we are very supportive of that. And in fact, Mayor Lightfoot did write a letter of support, for the airlines to receive the money. Obviously, they've been hit really hard. If you look at the throughputs, through the nation, it was on one day, on any given day, and I think it was a couple weeks ago, on a normal day, we would see anywhere from over a couple million passengers going through the 400 plus airports throughout this country. And what we saw were throughputs less than 100,000. So we have planes flying, it's just there's not a lot of folks on them. And so this impacts the entire system, not just Chicago, but as part of the national aviation system, it impacts everyone. So we're working very closely with our partners to minimize what we can, the impact.
Okay. Thanks, Commissioner. And on that question of cash flow, can you explain the use agreement and exactly how the CDA actually gets cash for construction projects? I think, folks have a general sense of the public-private partnership with the airlines and how it works, but could you give us just a quick 30,000 foot view of how that actually works? Where on the one end you have the plane landing all the way through to, the cash is at CDA, and then it goes to pay this GC, for example, on this project.
Sure. Well, we have a lot of different revenue sources that we, put into one bucket, and some of them are federal funds and some of them are not federal funds. First and foremost, we do receive terminal rents for everybody that occupies a space on the airport, the almost 8,000 acres here at O'Hare and the square mile of aviation over in Midway. We receive all of those terminal rents, and those are deposited into accounts. As you said, we also get landing fees. So every time an aircraft lands, we get, by weight, we get additional revenue that way. That goes for cargo as well. The hotel, the Hilton Hotel, obviously, is also another revenue generator where we actually own that hotel, and we have now paid someone to manage it for us. So that money comes into the kitty. We also get AIP money, so Airport Improvement Program money, which there are two different buckets of that. It's either discretionary or it's entitlement. Every airport gets entitlement money every year to do projects. And that is, AIP money is federal money. So that carries the DBE requirement with it. And then we also apply for grants, discretionary grants, which in the CARES Act, if you follow that, the airports throughout the entire system were given $10 billion. 7.4 billion of that was actually divvied up amongst the airports by formula, which was a complicated formula based on employments and based on debt service, the amount of debt that we had. And so we did pretty well. O'Hare did, and Midway is getting over $300 million between the two airports for the CARES Act money. The remainder of the 10 from the 7.4 is going to be an additional AIP money that they will be giving and easing up on some of the matching requirements. So it's an excellent time for us to apply for new projects, and I saw that was one of the questions. So there is new money available, a couple $1 billion to be distributed out throughout the aviation system, and we will be applying for those grants for certain projects, for the airfield projects that are eligible for AIP funding. We also get passenger facility charges. So every time you fly, we get the $4.50 that's on a ticket. That is, depending on what leg you're on and how many legs you get your $4.50, which is really to help maintain the airport. And so those are collected. And then we issue bonds, which we did for this program at TAP, which many of you may remember in 2018, I think in about October of that year, we issued about $2 billion in bonds to pay for TAP, the phase one TAP, which would get us through several years. So we do have a lot of cash in the bank to actually apply to these projects. So there's a variety of funding that is available out there, but again, it is all, whatever is made at the airport stays at the airport, and those are under our grant assurances. As an operating airport, we pledge to keep all the airport money on site.
Excellent. Excellent. I really appreciate that, because there's a lot of speculation that because of the downturn, because of no flights, that there is no cash. And so hence this really helps clarify and cut through all that chatter that's out there. So we really appreciate you providing that answer. And part of that too is, are there any layoffs planned? Because obviously that slows everything down. Every business is being affected. Maybe not in the near term, but perhaps midterm. Is any of that being discussed now? Is that something that we should be concerned about?
No, there are no discussions now. And in fact, as a recipient of the CARES Fund, our airport has committed that we would not go below 90% of our staffing as a recipient of those funds.
Very good. Very good. Straightforward. Thank you very much. All right. So a couple more questions here. So I'm going to go through. Some of these were actually answered in the presentation, and I really appreciate that because it gave a good synopsis, but there's some others. It seems like forever ago, Commissioner, but when we met in March, we did have the CMARs. They came out, and you guys did a wonderful job presenting, and then there was some good opportunity for folks to meet up, but we did want to provide some negative feedback on what we've got, in that some of our members are saying that they have not gotten any callbacks from that meeting of the CMARs. So we just want to make sure that your team can ensure follow-up and good faith efforts to engage potential vendors. So we definitely wanted to give you that heads up. We did get a couple of questions like that. And so
yeah, and on that, we're always willing to facilitate those conversations and make sure that they are following up. We do have a dedicated email address where you're able to send anything related to small business. It's ORDMDW, so O'Hare Midway, our call sign, smallbiz@cityofchicago.org. And you're able to always, at any time, anybody is able to send us an email and actually say, I'm checking on a payment, or I need to know what's going on with this bid, or I'm not getting a response back from the CMARs, and we're able to follow up with specifics. I caution, because I hear a lot of people talk about, well, I submitted a bid and they didn't hear anything. And, it's much like it is in procurement. There is a period of silence, either while the bid is out or after they come in while things are being tabulated. I think, Tammy, you talked about the resource center that we've got downstairs. We actually built a bid and bond room here at the airport, which doubles as a small business resource center. So the CMARs are there, and pre-COVID, we had planned to schedule office hours where they would be on site and able to take walk-ins to come in and actually talk to them, and actually maybe take a trip through their website by the experts that are right there in the resource center. We do have free computers available there for use if you need to check on a NAICS code or expand your NAICS codes or check on your certification, or even how to download bids, as well as we do the bid openings at that site for the CMARs. And again, we wanted to televise that. We wanted that integrity that comes, so from what we had practiced for so many years in the city. We wanted to bring that, as much as we could, understanding this is a different methodology, but wanted to bring that sort of integrity, that transparency, and honestly just the sort of mirror as much as we could here as to what we do and historically have done downtown. So all of that resource center is available, and if there are specifics that someone wants to reach out to us, we're happy to follow up.
Awesome. Okay, excellent. Quick question here. Would the RFQ for the QAMT target market contract still be on schedule for the second quarter of this year?
Yeah, I mean, and again, we are, you know, we are very much pushing that, but we do have to understand that procurement right now is translating a lot of documents to get them into e-procurement. We don't know, again, how long this is going to last, but City Hall is closed, so they're not able to take those paper submissions. So they're converting a lot of things and doing it, but we're working very closely with them on our priority contracts, and that is one of them for us.
Gotcha. Now, are there any additional or not previously required safety certifications or training that one might need or be required for contractors on site?
You know, obviously we are promoting social distance. We have our tool talks, our toolkit talks that we do, and are constantly pushing out the word to make sure that this is a different environment. We can't see people all huddled around. So I think as COVID continues, and we learn more about it, and in the new age post-COVID, we're probably going to see some stricter OSHA requirements coming out, but we're just not there yet. But we know that we have to practice the same good hygiene on a construction site as we do in an office. And so we are promoting that and making sure that people are following that social distancing guidelines. And obviously, you know, using hand sanitizer and washing their hands more frequently.
Okay, all right. I got a question on badging. Would there be an extension to badging renewals? Is the badging process for new contracts processed as previously?
Yep, and we've done a lot of work in this area. As you may remember, last year we actually did do a lot of work last year on it in revamping the ID badging process. But I'm going to turn this over to Andrew Velasquez, who is our expert in this area and really led a lot of those efforts, and really has gotten an excellent relationship with TSA, which governs a lot of those requirements, and has actually worked through with TSA to come up with some reprieve from some of the normal requirements that we have. So Andrew, you want to highlight some?
All right, good morning, everyone. This is Andrew Velasquez, First Deputy Commissioner for the Chicago Department of Aviation. It's a pleasure to be on with all of you. As the Commissioner stated, we have indeed made a number of modifications to the ID badging office to allow for flexibility in ID badging renewals and ID badging new employee identification cite-a-badge applications for first-time CDA employees or any first-time new employee that's going to be working in the airport environment. But most importantly, I think because there have been some obviously operational disruptions to a number of partner agencies that we work in close collaboration with, for example, the Illinois Secretary of State, we have made concessions with approval from the TSA to allow us to extend the renewal period for expired badges. So much like the Illinois Secretary of State has allowed a grace period for individuals to renew their expired driver's licenses, we have also been given a grace period by the TSA to allow for a grace period for expired badges. And so we've been given through May 25th for ID badges that have expired on or about May 5th or expire all the way through May 25th. We've been granted a 30-day grace period for ID badging renewals. And so I think that's critically important given the environment that we're all working in relationship to COVID-19. So I think that's probably the biggest, if you will, grace period, the biggest benefit that we've received from the TSA. The reason why we have not allowed for any badge renewals at this, or any new badge employees or renewals at this time, is because of the social distancing requirements. And so we have basically are only facilitating badge renewals at this time and new employees, but we're doing it very carefully. We're making sure that we're only allowing a certain amount of individuals into the badging office at a particular time to facilitate social distancing. We have applied all of the necessary PPE to our personnel based on CDPH guidance to ensure that they are effectively protected against a potential infection. And so these are the things that we have been working on with our TSA partners. Should we require an additional extension, the TSA has already informed us that they would be more than happy to grant that extension. We just have to officially request it through the official channels. So we've also, for those individuals that are signatories that have not met their training signatory requirement, we have also relaxed that as well. We are not disapproving signatories who submit applications where their training requirement has not been met. So if there are challenges, though, associated with that, or if there are questions, certainly your members can contact Vera Elu in our badging office, and I can get you her number in short order here. But those are the measures that we've put into place, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. For the sake of time, I'm going to turn it back over to Jorge.
All right. Just a couple more questions we'll go through. Just a comment real quick. It did come through. Congratulations. First Deputy Commissioner Velasquez, kudos to you on your new assignment. Definitely want to go through this. Question that came through: is the CDA planning to solicit proposals for third-party commissioning, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, technology, security, life safety, and building enclosures, as services should not be completed by the design team firm or the selected contracting teams in order to avoid any conflicts of interest?
Rob HACIA will be answering that question.
Thanks for that, Jorge. Absolutely. I think our approach here is going to differ project by project. It's certainly our intention to go to the marketplace in due course for commissioning agent services for the global terminal and satellite concourses. We're approaching it a little bit differently at Terminal 5, where we're matching up extended facilities to existing functions. And there, we're still trying to flesh this out, but it may be some combination of responsibilities from subcontracted specialty firms that do testing and commissioning, some patchwork with the PMO, and some of the functions being performed by our existing building operator in Terminal 5. So Terminal 5 is still, it's going to be a bit of a hybrid approach, but it's absolutely our intention to seek those services from the marketplace for the longer-term TAP facilities.
Gotcha. And I've got a couple of questions in regards to concessions. Is the Terminal 5 concession program RFP or the additional spaces going to come out? I guess that's a question for who exactly?
Amber Ritter will be answering that question, Jorge.
Hi. Yeah, so we'll eventually come out. We're still, this is a tricky time for a concessions RFP due to the market. So we are putting it together and figuring out a time that would be, good to hit the market with it. And we will certainly let you know when that happens. Okay.
And we had another question regarding the MAG, the minimum annual guarantees. I know this is happening nationwide, but is the CDA looking at relief for existing contracts and their minimum annual guarantee relief?
So that is that consideration is part of our concessions relief package that we are putting together. And as I said a little bit earlier, we need authority through city council to do anything like that, because that would all, in addition to other things, that would involve amending all of the existing contracts, because the contracts don't allow on their face for a waiving or a deferral of the MAG. So that's what's before city council right now. As I said, it'll be, it's up for a vote on May 20th and in front of the aviation committee, I believe it's the 15th, May 15th. But all those questions about MAG, relief or deferral, just as other airports have done, are what we're trying to, put together now, and we'll be rolling it out as soon as we have the authority to do so by city council.
Gotcha. Thank you, Amber. Well, that's a big move for that, because that does affect a lot of concessionaires.
It certainly does, and I just want to say we appreciate everybody's patience with this, because it's been a complicated scenario with a lot of the different variables, including our bond obligations as an airport and our contractual obligations, and what we can do and what we can't do with the contract as they're written out. So we do appreciate your patience. We know that everybody wants to know what's going on, but please sit tight, and we will be getting that out to you as soon as we can, and I think you'll be happy with it.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm going to switch over to some of the questions that were posted online. So if you give me a quick second here, let me just navigate out here. Alrighty. All right, we'll see which ones got upvoted. So give me a second. Now, it's in regards to any revenue shortfall. Do you, in the future, see any impact of the revenue shortfall? And will design and construction work slow down perhaps in 2021 or 22, or will it remain consistent?
Jorge, Rob HACIA will be answering that question. And then we only have time for a few more questions due to everyone's schedule.
I got you.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, so certainly on the revenue shortfall aspect of the question, there's no question that the decreased throughput through the airports that we're currently experiencing will lead to gaps in revenue that otherwise would have been budgeted for. So we're doing kind of a thorough review of our operating costs and figuring out where we can defer things. Some of our costs are closely tethered to the amount of throughput we actually have in the airport. So we're able to right size our costs to a certain extent that way. We're also taking additional measures and we'll continue to do so through the rest of the year. The rate of traffic bounce back, and therefore the rate of revenue bounce back, is still very much unknown. We're evaluating a number of scenarios to try to understand exactly where that revenue shortfall will occur. The relationship of project delivery to revenue generation isn't exactly one for one or dollar for dollar. Certainly our major projects this year and into next, the runway completions and Runway 9 Center and Runway 9 Right Extension, those absolutely will continue, as will a substantial amount of investment over at Terminal 5 in the concourse extension, the bump out, the replacement of the baggage handling system, and other various upgrades to that facility. That represents the vast majority of capital spend, certainly through the end of 2021, and both of those absolutely will continue. Other projects, we certainly are looking at resequencing and looking at exactly when those will be timed. Some are more efficient to construct in the immediate term with the reduction in traffic. We're evaluating those opportunities, and we certainly will be looking and working with our airline partners on how quickly we believe the traffic will bounce back to align capital delivery with the actual day-to-day operation. So I think at this point, it's really too soon to tell where we end up out of that process, and that'll take the better part of 6 months to really feather out. Okay.
So it could be just like the business of the airport is definitely going to be shifted, or it's going to evolve a little bit. It's still too soon to tell. Okay, I got you.
It really is. And, I think in that, Jorge, I'd just add that it's very similar to all of our day-to-day lives. I think various states are taking different approaches. We don't really know how quickly normal economies will get back online, and I think the business of the airport falls into that same category.
Really quick then, what I'm going to do is probably just one more question, and then I'm going to our strategic partner, Beth Doria from the Federation of Women Contractors is online, and if Beth wants to say something, I'll hand it over to you, but just this one of the final questions. In regards to the target market contracts, that are still being advertised, how many CM contracts the CDA anticipate awarding to target market firms? And do you anticipate that the construction projects that the target market CMs would oversee would continue to move forward, or have the airlines expressed any interest in putting this work on hold due to COVID-19?
Well, when they go out, we're looking at awarding up to 3 or 4, and it'll also not be only be O'Hare, but it'll also be Midway. We're looking at not only CIP projects, but we're looking at term agreements, all the work that construction-wise that we have to be doing. So it will be terminal work, term agreements, airfield CIP. So all of that, also JOC will be involved in that, and Midway. So we're looking at this point, we'll see how many we get, and we'll make a determination. But it could be 3 to 4 at that number.
I got you. Thank you, Frank. All right. So just a final question: how can the CDA help diverse companies that are disproportionately being affected by the pandemic? The unfortunate fact is most WBE firms take liquidity and access to capital like it's well-established competitors. Can the CDA create more set-aside programs to help?
Well, I think for those, I'll answer that. For those that know me, I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. We've flipped a lot of different traditionally non-target market contracts into that target market bucket, as you've seen. We've worked with our CMRs to ensure that we have a constant pipeline of very small projects, SBIs, SBI 1s and 2s, MBIs. I will tell you that from what I've seen so far, I think there needs to be a lot more bids coming in, and I don't know exactly why, but we open up bids and they're small and we get one bidder. I know the one bidder was from HACIA, so I'm very thankful for that. We did get one, but I would like to see more competition. And so I just would encourage folks to make sure that they are actively looking and bidding on this work as it comes out. But we're going to continue to look at ways to do that and to constantly make sure that we are building capacity, and, from the very small all the way up to those folks that are almost graduating and then beyond graduation with our MBI projects. And so you will see all throughout the program, you will see those sizes of contracts. The other thing, as Tammy mentioned, is we are specifically setting up assist agency agreements with, the reimbursable process like we did and we started in procurement, where I know HACIA, and I don't know if the FWC did, but, I know HACIA took advantage of one of those reimbursables, and we plan to do the same thing. We've upped the limit a little bit, and we're working with procurement to get that out. Technical assistance for WBE firms, DBE that are working, BEPD and veteran-owned that are working at the airport now, who may need some assistance in a variety of different ways, and whether that's safety training in the new era of COVID, or if it's back office, or if it's estimating, or whatever that might be, bidding itself. We want to make sure that we're facilitating that and bringing in the experts, which really is you. I mean, my hat off to all of the assist agencies who do a remarkable job at keeping their members informed. I know you guys are constantly communicating with us, and I really appreciate that, because you bring to light ideas which we then implement. And so we want to keep that dialogue open and going. But I think that this new technical services will even further, demonstrate the mayor's commitment, obviously, to this program, and making sure that we're utilizing it in the best way that we can to make sure we're building capacity, but also it demonstrates the CDA's commitment that, this is a new day here, and we want to make sure that we're being as inclusive as possible.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me hand it over to Beth Doria. Beth is Executive Director of the Federation of Women Contractors, you may know, and they are our strategic partners in policy and legislative matters and passing bills. So Beth, did you want to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you, Jorge. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, Commissioner and everyone else from CDA, for presenting a lot of really good information. I would suggest, we lost a little bit of time with the technical difficulties in the beginning. So what I would suggest is that the remainder of the questions that were posed, maybe what we could do is send those on to you for a response. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and so we want to make sure that those people participating on this webinar are able to get their questions answered. Again, you know, FWC, HACIA, some of the other assist agencies, we look forward to being partners with CDA in this time, and anything that we can do to help you all continue with the projects that are out there. We're happy to do it. We are staying in touch with all of our members on a very almost daily basis. So, you know, just let us know what you need us to do, and we're of course happy to do it. So I appreciate everyone taking the time and joining this, particularly Commissioner. We know your time is very valuable now, and we certainly appreciate it. So thank you again.
Well, it's a pleasure to serve, and it goes without saying, anytime, you guys do an amazing job of reaching out and letting us know if there are any questions at all, night or day. You can email us. Like I said, I'm just going to repeat that email address again, which is available for whatever a small business might need. We'll get it routed to the right person. But if you want to collect all these and put them in one and send them directly to me, that's fine too. But that email address is ORDMDW, so O'Hare Midway, monikers, smallbiz@cityofchicago.org.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner, I want to thank you and your team, your senior staff, for being part of this. It's the first time we've ever done it, and
Yep.
we appreciate your time as well. So in closing, we will send you all the questions that were posted here. We'll pull them all down, and then, like you said, send them over to you. Beth, I really appreciate you partnering up with us on this, and just a forecast of what we're going to be doing. For HACIA members who are on our professional services committee, we have prepared, well, we were preparing for a May 7th railroad panel discussion and networking event. We're going to shift that a little bit to possibly at the end of May. And we've also been talking to the folks over at IDOT District 1 to do a similar type of webinar. So we did want to give you a heads up to stay tuned for information on those coming up in May. And so with that, I want to thank all of you who participated today. I think at a high, we were at 237 attendees. Appreciate you taking the opportunity and the time to get on with us. I want to thank our members again for your support. We really, really appreciate it. And to our sponsors for this morning's webinar. So Commissioner Rhee, thank you very much. Thank you very much, senior staff at CDA. So on behalf of HACIA's Board of Directors and the FWC's Board of Directors, I'm Jorge Perez. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. Stay safe and stay healthy. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.